Hi everybody, John here. In this video I'm going to show my collection of records and a few CDs of Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex and Marc Bolan. So these are pretty much just my collection that I've collected in the time that I've been collecting music, really. And it's not an exhaustive or a complete collection. These are just ones that I've picked up. I made similar videos where I show my Thin Lizzy albums, records by The Who, Deep Purple as well, I think I showed as well. And I thought this could be an interesting way to show my Marc Bolan records. And I've also, and I'll show this a bit later on, I've also received some amazing VCLT from another guy on YouTube that shows his music, and I'll show that at the end because it's my, the latest addition to my T-Rex collection. Now, I don't have, and never have had, the first album by Tyrannosaurus Rex. My people were fair, and they had sky in their heads. Don't have it, but I do have the next one, Prophets, Seers, Sages, Angels of the Ages, and it's just a simple reissue that I have here. I must admit, I find this and the next one, quite a difficult listen. Sort of psychedelic folk, really, wasn't it? In its time. Yeah, so that's just on this reissue of that album. The next one I have to show is actually a twofer. So we've got Unicorn, which is essentially more of the same for the last record, I think. But then it's a double sort of album, and it has a Bit of Stars on. A Bit of Stars is actually quite a good record. It doesn't get, I don't think it gets mentioned as much as it should do. It's quite a nice thing put together by Marc Bolan. And so here's the inner sleeve of that set. Got Marc Bolan together with Steve Peregrine Took, who fell out of favour with Marc Bolan when he wanted to start including some of his songs and some of his writing in the partnership, and Marc Bolan wasn't having any of that. He wanted to be the main man. So that was pretty much all of the music put together by Tyrannosaurus Rex. So as with many of my records, and particularly the ones that I collected sort of in my younger years, many of these were ones that I picked up at either at car boot sales, but specifically jumble sales. I distinctly remember the particular record which I brought home from jumble sales. This is one of those, this twofer. And I've said it before and I'll explain it again. It's probably quite hard for the younger collectors of this day and age to sort of understand and remember the time when records just weren't fashionable. They weren't. It was, CDs were sort of coming in, they were shiny and new, and these records, particularly ones that come out in the 70s, were just yesterday's news. People couldn't get rid of them quick enough. And I remember going along to jumble sales, and yeah, if there were records there, they were sort of 20, 30 pence each, if that. And I brought some amazing records. A lot of my Jimi Hendrix collection come from things like that. David Bowie too. And I shudder to think of all the records I passed up because I simply didn't know who the artists were. But the T-Rex were certainly amongst those that I brought home from jumble sales. So this is the first T-Rex album. It's seen better days. It's not particularly great shape. There you go, it's got the flap there. And this is an interesting record in that it sort of bridges the gap between what Tyrannosaurus Rex was doing with this sort of cosmic folk type music that they were making, and this is a sort of a step in the electric guitar direction. He's got his Les Paul there, and by now this guy Mickey Finn is on board. It's no longer Steve Peregrine Took, because Mickey Finn, who's taken over the sort of like the sidekick role. I've heard him described on some of the documentaries about T-Rex as being a sort of clothes horse. He looked good, and Marc Bolan was happy for having someone that looked good. I always thought he looked really good, actually. He looks like the kind of guy you want to get to know. So that's the first album, and this is an interesting record because if you listen to some of the songs, it sort of bridges the gap between that cosmic folk that Marc Bolan was doing, and yeah, it's got an introduction of the electric Les Paul style sound guitar to it. And there are some tracks on here that you'd swear were sort of latter T-Rex music, but they're really not, because if you listen to them again, you notice that they don't have drums or bass. It's basically just you know, guitar with sort of bongo drums. What's the word I'm looking for? Percussion. It's basically guitar and percussion. So I'm thinking like Beltane Walk. I was sure that would have come from a sort of latter T-Rex album, but it doesn't. If you listen to it, you can just hear the vocals, the electric guitar, and percussion. There's no bass. There's no drums. One each rock. That's another one. It sounds like it should be, you know, a latter record, but it's not. So that's that. That's the first T-Rex album. Now the next album I'm going to show is this one. This is my entry point. It's my very first T-Rex album, and I got this because I had a girlfriend at the time whose dad was he used to do this thing where they would go and cruise the jumble sales, buy things, and this is all sort of pre-internet or anything like that. He used to go and cruise the jumble sales, buy up things, and then he had a market stall in the second-hand market, and he would sell a lot of the stuff that he bought at jumble sales. It seems incredible to think now, because people these days go out, don't they? They're all very well informed. They can Google lens pretty much anything, see what the market value is, and then flog it on eBay or something. Well, this was before that time. And one time he came home with this. Now this was a particular interest to me when he brought it back, because Duran Duran had split up. I was a huge Duran Duran fan, and my girlfriend was a big Duran Duran fan. And they'd sort of taken a break, a hiatus I suppose you'd say, and they'd formed two separate bands. You had Arcadia with Nick Rhodes and Simon Le Bon, and the drummer Roger Taylor. And then you had John Taylor and Andy Taylor went off and formed the Power Station together with Robert Palmer. And I remember thinking, you know, wow, that single they did, Get It On, was really good. I really liked it. And I wouldn't have known it was a T-Rex song, but I think it was Mike Reid introduced it on Top of the Pops. And I heard the name for the first time, T-Rex, and I thought, oh, wow, who are they? What do they sound like, you know? And this record came in, and lo and behold, yeah, it's got on top of side 2, Get It On, that single that Power Station had done a cover version of. And so I asked my girlfriend's dad, can I just take this home and listen to it? Almost sort of this half promise, I'll bring it back when I've finished. And I think I probably brought it back with the idea of recording it onto a cassette like people did in those days. And well, yeah, was it 40 odd years later, I've still got the record here in my collection, so I never did give it back. But this was, for me, this was my entry point, and it was just absolutely amazing. I can remember putting this on and listening to it on the headphones and being amazed by this, you know, inner sleeve, and then you've got the, it's on Columbia. And it was just, you know, incredible. I remember thinking, wow, that's such an amazing record. And every track, for me, this is one of those albums that every track is brilliant. And I like it all. And I thought, you know, I'm going to become a huge fan. And eventually I painted a picture of Marc Bolan. I had a black biker jacket in those days. Painted a picture of Marc Bolan's white face on the back because I was become such a huge fan of T-Rex just from this record alone. Now, this, like I said before, this was before the internet. Information and that sort of thing was hard to come by, so I had no idea of knowing how many other records there were out there. I didn't understand this relationship between T-Rex and Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is another copy of that album. This is one that I bought in Sweden. I think it's like a European issue. Very similar. It's got the same inner sleeve thing, except this one's got the custom label. There you go. Cool picture. And because this is possibly one of my favourite albums, because this is one of my favourite albums, you know, it's always good to have an extra spare copy just in case. Now, the next one I'm going to show is the Slider. Not a bad record. I wasn't so bowled over with it as I thought I was going to be. I really had high hopes for this when I found it, and I found this in Sweden when I lived there. Bought it from the Salvation Army Myrorna thrift store. Watched an interesting documentary, and they spoke quite a lot with the drummer. And he said that he really liked this because he came on first on hand with Electric Warrior, but he liked this one because the sound sort of went up a notch. They sort of had a bit more sophistication in the song production and things, and it's nice. It's not bad, but what I really liked about the last album is its rawness and its basic. It's still very much the basic style of music that Marc Bolan was doing with Tyrannosaurus Rex, except it was electric and it had drums and bass, and that was its amazing quality, I think. Whereas the Slider starts to go into a direction of more sophisticated music. I didn't quite enjoy it quite as much. The album that came out after that is this, Tanks. I bought this as well in Sweden. You can tell it's got this green thing here that they used to put on, these stickers used to put over records, called it plombering, and they did that so that if you bought a record to somebody and you gave it to them and they already had it, you could take it back to the shop because this seal wasn't broken. So that's Tanks. Yeah, I know a lot of people like this a lot. I'm not a huge fan. In fact, I'll talk a little bit more later on about some of the music that we're looking at. This is a reissue of Tanks. I don't know when they did this, can't remember now. But it's essentially the same album, just released as a gatefold sleeve with an alternative cover. And I've got another one of those. This is Futuristic Dragon. This is quite special. It's a reissue, it's not the original cover. But it's a 2-disc set, and it comes with, so it's got the album, but it also comes with an EP, a 4-track EP. So it's got New York City, Chrome Sitar, and on side 2 it's got Dreamy Lady, Do You Want to Dance, Stock of the Bay, so that's a 5-track EP. It's a futuristic dragon. Here's what the original cover looked like. I've never had that Zinc Alloy album, never had that one, and I've never had Zip Gun, Bolan Zip Gun, sadly. This is the next one I have. This is Marc Bolan, Billy's Super Duper. Pick this one up. The car boots are, I believe. It's got red vinyl. It's got the picture of Mark there on the front. Again, this one, I listen to it. It's not one that I go back to necessarily very often. In fact, I will say that generally I don't listen to these records as much as I used to. I think probably because I had quite an intense period of time when I first started getting into T-Rex that I listened to them and overplayed them. And yeah, occasionally I dig them out, but not very often. This is T-Rex in concert. I bought this from Kelly's Records in Wales, in Cardiff, where I live. So this is a relatively new addition to my collection. Got a nice image on the gatefold sleeve. I like this, but it sounds, to me it sounds very much like a bootleg. You know, it's not, you know, not tremendously produced or anything like that. It reminded me a lot of that. There's a live Beatles album, isn't there? It's not very good because all you can really hear is girls screaming. It's not quite as bad as that one, but it's got a similar kind of poor quality to the sound production of it. This is the next one. I've got the Unobtainable T-Rex. So I understand this is a posthumous compilation. It's on EMI. And this is a relatively new edition as well. Now this one isn't even a cover, but I've got it. So it's just a flyback to Best of T-Rex. And yeah, it's just in a generic sleeve. I picked this up at a jumble sale back in the day. Now, the next few records are some compilations that I've had for years. Bolan Boogie. And T-Rex are one of those, another one of those bands where there are so many compilations, you know. I guess it's because, you know, as an artist, I had a lot of hit singles. It's an open invitation to make compilations and put them on the market, I suppose. I've got 2 copies of this. I'm just going to show the one. This is a MFP compilation, T-Rex, Ride a White Swan. This is a great compilation. There you go. And then this is one as well I picked up at a jumble sale in the 80s. Get It On. A great, really good compilation. It's got mainly most of the tracks from Electric Warrior, and then 2 or 3 others included. Great album, listened to that many times. Now, there are a couple of compilations. Well, this one I actually owned and had it for many years, and just a few years ago my niece started showing an interest in records, and this was stored in my mother's house in a cupboard under the stairs, and I went back there to bring a few records home to me here in Wales that I had there, and I pulled that one out and I thought, I'll give this to my niece because she probably really enjoy that. I'm glad that she's got it, but I kind of regret it because I think to myself now, I wish I'd hang on to that. It's not an exclusive compilation. I could probably pick it up again somewhere, and I probably will one day. Now, I did have this compilation that I'm showing here on the side now, Solid Gold Action, Marc Bolan and T Rex, and I had quite a poor experience with it, and it's really the reason for this cassette that sort of put me off listening to music that was sort of in the latter part of the T Rex catalogue. So it's made up of tracks, I think, from Tanks onwards, and diverse tracks put together on a compilation, and by all means it should be something that I should embrace and really enjoy. But the cassette was really, the sound was really overly bright, you know. Felt like it had the treble turned up all the way, and it put me off because that sort of quality, that sound quality, gives me a headache, and it put me off actually listening to it. I probably tried it 4 or 5 times to get into it and enjoy the music, but each time, you know, I turned it off halfway through because it was just too painful for my ears to listen to. And so since then I've probably, you know, had a fairly sort of standoff feeling about those latter albums, and that's why I haven't pursued getting all of the studio albums. Just felt like, oh, if they sound like that bright sound that's on that cassette, then I don't need Dandy in the Underworld and yeah, Zingaloy or Zip Gun. So, you know, there you go. Here are a couple of CD compilations. I mean, these come out all the time, don't they? This is one that I picked up in a charity shop. It's got 20 tracks on it. I think released in 1999. This is another really good, the Essential Collection, Marc Bolan and T Rex. When did this one come out? 1995, oh no, year 2000 by the look of it. It's got 24 tracks on it, and in many ways they all have pretty much the same tracks on it, don't they? And this one, yeah, this one could do with a new jewel case. This is T Rex Hits. Again, it's got 20 tracks on it. Yeah, very much the same kind of tracks on here. And that brings me all the way to this very last record that was sent to me in the post very kindly by Mr. Glamrock himself, Darren in the studio. So Darren made a video a few weeks ago where he showed his collection of this set of compilation records, and they are sort of a, what would you say, yeah, they have a lot of outtakes and live performances, alternative production, you know, just some rare tracks basically. And like you said, when you presented these albums, there's probably nothing on them that, you know, the die-hard fan didn't already have, but he sort of brought them all together, and that is it's beautifully made. So Darren had 2 copies of this, and so he sent me one of them in a sleeve, 2 record set, and it's an amazing white vinyl. Really lovely package. Really kind of you, Darren, to send this over to me. I really appreciate that. And I've been sort of reliving my T-Rex fondness just through listening to some of these tracks and really kind of enjoying them. Really good. So happy to have this. Okay everybody, so that's my T-Rex, Marc Bolan and Tyrannosaurus Rex collection, and I just wanted to show these. Yes, like I said, some of these I picked up at jumble sales for just pennies. Some of them I picked up at car boot sales, others I picked up in charity shops. And yeah, this lovely last one was sent to me as a gift from Darren in the studio. Be sure to check out his channel, it's really good. Okay, everybody, thanks very much. I hope you found this mildly interesting, and check out my next video. Okay, bye.